I've got my... Hello and welcome to Social Media Business. This is the vodcast show, YouTube conundrum about social media, and the lovely Dave Early. Hi Dave, how are you?
Good, thanks, Laurel. Hello, everybody. I am
Am I
in
allowed to mention
Sydney.
that you're in your pajamas?
Yeah, why not? I am channeling the old what is it? Bloggers who just sit at home in their pajamas.
Oh, what
Apparently,
was that called? Blog?
I can't
Yeah,
remember.
I remember the
Back in the day
Pajama
when,
Army or something like that.
yeah.
Pajama Army, yeah.
So
Um,
yeah, I'm in Sydney in our new house, surrounded by boxes and unpacking, and yeah, it's all
and
happening.
how is your new house? Is it cool?
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. A
Because
lot
you took it
roomier
on
than,
sight unseen, didn't you?
yeah, we did. It is a lot
Mm.
roomier than expected, which is nice. It's very
Oh,
good.
good.
So we're just trying to get it all set up so the kids settle down a bit, going a bit crazy.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to spend an hour with us today. So that's lovely. Thank you for that. And I just want to point out that I got a Studio 10 mug
I did notice
from
that.
Channel 10, and it's got silk charm inside. So
Wow,
if you send me free stuff, I may or may not show it on here, but I'm definitely going to use it.
wow. So did you get that because you appeared on Studio 10?
No, no. In fact, I'm not always the most gracious tweeter about them. I have, I think morning TV's gone in completely the wrong direction. It's we're looking at a virtual army of people working from home now. I don't like the paternalism that the Sunrise program had. I mean, I'm not a fan of that Mel, but at least she had the gumption to kind of stand up to that whole Koshi and his girls thing, which I just dislike intensely. And I find the other shows really banal. And then even the ABC, which at least was doing this kind of cooler voice in amongst all their faffiness, they've started getting into those kind of things as well of talking about how cute someone is. And please, most of us have an IQ. And oh, did you see the news that the ABC's PM and that other show on radio are now number one in Sydney and Melbourne? That's kind of exciting.
No, I did not see that.
Yeah,
I did not.
it means we're not all as dumb and thick as three bricks and Carl Sanderland's loving creatures. Although I will give Carl his measure. He knows his voice and he sticks to it. And if you don't
Hmm.
like it, switch it off, that kind of thing. I just don't kind of get the voice. Mind you, with Studio 10, I think they tried a few different things. I'm just a bit, I don't know. Anyway, nice mug. I'm happy with it. A
It
nice
is
coffee.
good.
Gary made me coffee.
Very nice. Thank you, Gary. Oh,
Do you think we should actually start talking about social media and stuff now?
maybe
All
we could
right.
do that. Or we could just keep chatting on. Do we have any questions?
I'm
I
looking
can't.
at the questions channel. I'm not seeing anything, so Q&A
I
is
can't.
on.
I,
Um,
I don't think I can see the Q&A
if you
on.
press the blue one on the left-hand side where it says Q&A.
I'm on the iPad.
Oh, okay. Oh well, I've got it open and I can't see any questions. So either they're not coming through, which sometimes happens and they all flood through, or else we don't have any yet. We had quite a few
Well, we
last week,
haven't
so we'll,
we
we'll get
haven't
some.
started talking about anything yet, so
No,
we
nothing,
get
nothing important. Morning
we
TV
get started
shows and
talking about something.
pajamas. All right. The one I want to go to first, which is the one that everybody was asking about last week, and it's about turning off event spam and Hangout spam. And, whenever I run a Hangout, I get attacked because people haven't set their settings, and Google has a default setting that's that annoys people. And what I want to say is, I'm not spamming you. In fact, in some cases, for some of you, I'm not even following you. I will if we chat and that sort of thing. But I just get such a lot of followers, I can't follow everybody. And because I make this public, people who've got their settings on their calendar the wrong way, or not the wrong way, but open to everything, get spammed. So what I'm going to do is I'll just slip to screen share. I just want to say, is this thing on, the first Hangout? Hi, Nathaniel. Yes, it is. And we can see you, and the questions are coming through now, so thank you.
So
And now,
is spam, is it sending out auto event invitations and reminders and that sort of thing? Is that what people are getting?
yeah, somebody said that they're in Jakarta and it's 4 a.m. there when it's 10 a.m. here or something, and they get millions of pings and reminders, like 8 or 10 of them.
Wow.
Which was never my intention, so I'm trying to figure out what's causing that. Gary Hayes wants to know if anybody else wants a coffee. He's making them.
Yes, so, please, Gary.
What sort of coffee do you have, Dave? Just while I get this set up.
Flat white, thanks, with 1.
White with 1. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to my calendar settings, and if you have a look over here, I'll just get rid of the rest of the crap. You guys don't need to see all the rest of the rubbish. Over on this side is the list of all your calendars. If you go to the calendar that's causing offense, it's usually your Gmail one. You can go to calendar settings, and then in your settings, I don't know why, but my events are always set for Hobart, and it's set correctly here, so that's really annoying. And under the settings is it reminders and notifications? You can get notifications for when somebody sends you an invitation to an event, whenever it changes. So if I change and correct a spelling error, you'll get pinged, all that sort of thing. So you've got to change that one. Also, under the, I'll just go into my main one because I don't use that one for, I think it's low work. Let's have a look at that one. I put it up the other day how to fix this. No reminders. Make sure you've got no reminders on there. But there should also be one. Maybe I've got to open here. There's one which says I want events added to my calendar all the time, or only when I accept them. Spam. Look where that is. Do you get automatically added stuff to your calendar, Dave?
I don't think so. I don't get a lot of reminders, so I could have done this a very long time ago.
Did you do you use Google Calendars or iCal?
Yes.
From you do? Okay.
Yeah, I use Google Calendars.
Change your Google Calendar settings. I wonder if it's at the top under the main details. It's so funny because I wrote up the instructions on how to do this the other day and sent them through. And my calendars settings. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. There we go. Okay. it's the all my calendars that you have to change. So instead of the individual calendars down here, the key is to go to My Calendars, Settings, and under General, the second area you have to go to is this one, Automatically Add Invitations to My Calendar. And if you say yes, anytime anybody that you're connected to has an event, you'll be added to it. So I say no, only invitations to which I've responded. And I think somebody said that they like the reminders. They like having stuff added to their calendar, but they don't want all the reminders. Who was that?
Okay.
It was Thingamy in Jakarta. He can set it to this one, which means you get told once when it adds it to the calendar, and then you don't keep getting all the reminders and 8 different versions of whatever. So.
Yep.
Hopefully that made sense. If you go into each individual calendar, you can change the settings for what notifications you get in that calendar. But if you go to the generic My Calendars general settings, you can change whether you get stuff added to your calendar or not. Not the reminders, but the adding of it. And I think Google should have had those default off. And I understand why you opt out, not opt in, because it forces people to integrate events with calendars and notifications with their calendars, but it seems to annoy so many people. Well, not so many,
Yeah.
but they blame me. It's like, it's not my fault. I'm not in your computer doing your settings, so don't be mad at me. Anyway, that was a quick little thingy on how to fix all that stuff.
So if nobody followed that,
Sorry?
if somebody didn't follow that, do we have instructions we can point them to or put in the notes?
Well, actually, I did write the instructions up, and I don't know why I forgot where they were, considering I wrote the instructions. But if people Google stop event spam, there's heaps of instructions out there. Do you think we should write? The problem with events is there's nothing permanent. So what I could do is I could write it, but it'll end up halfway down the comments later on. So maybe I can add it to. Maybe I can add it to the. Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll add it to the synopsis, the extract, each week, so that if people are looking at it and are trying to figure out how to turn the notifications off, they can read it in the extract event.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good idea?
I think that's a good idea.
Goody. Okay.
Just with a note, if you are overwhelmed by event spam, click here.
Yeah. Or just I'll just say go to your calendar settings and change these 2 things. Yeah. And actually give them the instructions so they're not just leaving comments about how horrible I am because I'm spamming them. All right, let's go to my social media dashboard and see what the news of the week is. Unless you've got something that you think's interesting and you want to share, Dave?
I have been pretty much off the grid, so I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Well, let's have a look. So this is my social media dashboard. I'll just make this itchy. You know what we're going to do? We're going to come out of that and move this to the other screen.
Now, what's that on again? What do you use?
This one's NetVibes. I use a few different. I use Feedly and blah blah and different ones.
No, I remember we mentioned NetVibes in maybe the first podcast.
So one of the things you do with NetVibes is you go to add and feeds, and you add the RSS feeds in of what you're interested in. But they also have apps, so you can add in weather apps and Google Analytics and Facebook and Twitter apps and all that sort of stuff. Adding Facebook feeds is a friggin' nightmare because you've got to find the secret number code, which I've got a blog post on if people want to see that. I might actually make this dashboard public. At the moment it's a private one, but I'll make it public. With the Facebook official pages, I found 60 official Facebook pages and then brought the secret RSS feed in of Facebook, so I could keep an eye on what the different areas are talking about. So, Dave, do you watch or read FB Newswire, the Facebook news service, official one?
Yeah, so I subscribe to that sort, just liked it and get it in my feed occasionally. I don't go to it religiously, but if I see it in my feed, I check out what they're sharing. But yeah, when they first announced it, I think we talked about that in one of our first podcasts as well, because that was pretty big news because it's powered by
Yeah.
Storify. Not Storify, I always get that wrong. Um, Storyful.
Storyful, that's right. And here's a question for you. Do you think these Facebook pages that are run by Facebook,
Hmm.
do you think they're subject to the same EdgeRank and FBO, the algorithm that normal business pages are, and that we know has dropped that from 16% to 6%? So the chances of getting into people's news feeds now with your business page updates is so low. Do you think
Hmm.
that Facebook applies their own algorithm to their own pages?
Um, I would think probably not.
Yeah.
I would think I would think they give themselves some preference. Although you do see and there was one there that I saw on the dashboard right there, that you see
Yeah.
quite often now is the one that's just for the Facebook business maybe, or Facebook general Facebook.
Oh, the
How
sponsored posts from
the
there
sponsored
about,
posts
yeah.
generally about just some nice thing, that one that says I can see that your favorite place somewhere you've never been, or a friend's discovery can lead to your next adventure.
Yes.
I've seen
Yeah.
that quite often recently. So and those are marked as sponsored posts. So there are some that are, you know they're at least showing that that's, they're advertising to place it there. um,
Which is,
but
I mean, yeah. And given that I've liked all these pages, I actually don't see them very often in my feed natively, but I suspect it's because my social network don't like the specialist pages. I don't know.
yeah,
But having the RSS feed means I don't, it's nice to have everything on one page. So let's
yeah.
have a quick look at this one. So Facebook said that 66 million people had more than 200 million Facebook interactions, posts, comments, and likes related to today's World Cup semi-final match between Germany and Brazil. That's, you know what that immediately says to me? The people who talk about social media as being niche don't get it. They just don't get it. You,
Who talks
you
about
know,
social media as
Super
being
Bowl.
niche?
Yeah, I still, Dave, I still go to workshops and presentations, and people think that social media is, niche. They talk about, fragmented audiences. They talk about that it's, for kids or the young people like social media. And I'm like, seriously? 66 million people talking about one game? What do you
Yeah,
reckon? Do you think it's niche?
yeah. No, but at the same time, that game, a semi-final of the World Cup, is not a niche event, in the same way that perhaps um, a social media podcast is a niche event, um, or um, or a local rugby league game in the suburban cup or whatever is a niche event. So it depends on your size, not just the size of your Facebook audience, but also the size of the event, um, the relevance of the event to a mass audience, that I guess determines niche or not. But you can't say Facebook is niche when um, pretty much every Australian adult has a Facebook account almost. So um, that's your audience. That's your potential audience. So to say it's niche is just wrong. You've got the entire um,
Yeah.
you've got the entire you've got the entire Australian population on Facebook to reach, if you if you have the opportunity. So it's not niche at all.
Yeah, I and I think it's the same with YouTube videos. If some guy's getting 40 million views of his channel every month, then it's not niche. Anyway, here's something that's been going viral. Um, this one's more interesting to me in some ways. It's 27 pretty girls making ugly faces, and I'll just bring this down a little bit. And I find it perhaps it's
Can't see
interesting to
the
me. We're calling this the anti-Photoshop movement. There's some interesting repercussions socially around this, I think. She looks like an actress. I can't think of her name. Anyway, that's great. That could be a meme,
I,
Derek. So, Dave, first of all, can you stop
yes,
pulling a face?
pulling a face.
Yeah, I'm kidding. I'm being rude.
Yes. No, I had not seen that doing. I had not seen that doing the rounds. So is this supposed to be the you know, be yourself campaign or something like that?
Well,
Opposed to
one of the big things that people talk about is that social media users are narcissists and that we take selfies all the time and that it's me, 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 and that the selfies are, we're always presenting our best self to the community. So we say things like, I just got a great job, or I'm so in love with my boyfriend, or um, all the good news, and that we're forever doing our rebranding, making a more positive personal brand. And I'm really noticing this other shift, which is around authentic, honest self. So some of the ones that make me funny are, there's a hashtag on Saturday called #selfie Saturday, which is where you show yourself all dressed up and ready to go out and, going partying, and you're looking nice and you've got your makeup and your hair done and you look really cool, and you take a selfie, and it's Selfie Saturday. Selfie Sunday is where you show the tragic aftermath of having gone out on Saturday night.
right.
So, it's like, no makeup and looking a bit like you are at the moment, Dave.
Yeah, bit seedy.
Gary's saying that Ricky Gervais started this. Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
familiar with Ricky Gervais. Oh, his bath. Didn't he do some in the bath? I don't know, Gary. I can't click on that link, but um, I'll put the link up later. But I think he did a whole bunch in the bath and pulling faces. And the other ones that were interesting was, what was the no makeup selfie, the cancer campaign from the UK. It started as a grassroots campaign, and then Cancer Council UK picked up on it. But no makeup selfie, which was showing people
Okay.
with no makeup and being who they really are. I don't know. I think that's
Yeah.
interesting. Have you got anything you want to throw up on the screen, or have you been
I
thinking
can't.
about anything this week? What's
Um,
been going on in the world of Dave?
just moving. Um, I did. I, I think it will be interesting now, and anyone who lives in Sydney will think this is completely not interesting. But um, I think it'll be interesting to see how much more social navigation stuff, how much better it works in Sydney as a big city than Brisbane necessarily. So Foursquare, Highlight, other social check-in and navigation services, Yelp, things like that. They work in Brisbane, but in terms of connecting with other people and finding other people nearby, there's just less people using those services necessarily in somewhere like Brisbane. So
Do you know
I personally,
I've got a funny Brisbane story though about Foursquare.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I came into Brisbane to speak at a conference at the Conference Expo Exhibition Centre or something there. And in the morning, I left the hotel and I walked to a cafe and sat down and had a coffee and checked in. And of course, Foursquare notifies Facebook and Twitter.
yeah,
And my sister and I are both from Adelaide, so I'm living in Sydney. And at the time, she was living up on the Torres Strait on Thursday Island. And as she's a remote area nurse, Iran, and
yeah,
and I so I'm from Sydney. I'm in Brisbane, and I get a call from her, and she says, "Hi, it's your sister." And I went, "What do you want? I'm in Brisbane. I'm busy." And she said, "Yeah, I know. I saw it on Facebook." She said, "I'm in Brisbane for the day as well." And we caught up that night. We had dinner. No fighting, no biting, which was a bit of a shock, really. We had a nice dinner. And then she went back to Thursday Island, and I went back to Sydney. And my mum asked, "How did you two know you were both in Brisbane on the same day?" And neither one of us owned up to the fact that we were using checking in services to tell everybody where we were, because mums just don't
yep,
understand that. But that kind
yeah,
of, I mean, I think that's the beautiful synchronicity of these kind of check-in services, is you just don't know who's in town.
yeah. And you get it occasionally in Brisbane, but not as much um, as I think we will here. So um, yeah, so there's already been a few times when I've checked in, and then um, there's a there's an app that I've never used that much, but it still gives me notifications called Highlight, which basically tells you people that you aren't even friends with, but who you might be interested in meeting for similar um, interests or work related or things like that. Tell you people who are either in the same industry as you or have the same shared interests or things like that who are in the area. So I've already had, just not even in the CBD, just around the suburbs, check in somewhere and get a notification that, three people nearby share, digital media on their file or something like that, that you might be interested in meeting. And
Is it a dating tool?
no, no. Um, so it was debuted at South by Southwest maybe 3 years ago or something like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's really, it might throw up that, you if I wasn't friends with you, it might throw up that Laurel Papworth is nearby, or Guy
Yeah,
Kawasaki is nearby.
there was
And
one that
even
I
though we're
used
not
to.
friends,
There was one I
even though we're
used to
not
belong
friends,
to.
yeah,
It was called Dodgeball,
wow,
and this was a kind of random one that just told you if people were at a nearby bar or somewhere nearby. It was a long time ago, 2005. You
yep,
texted in your location. It was interesting to me because the guy who set this up said that he had such a bad experience working with Google afterwards, because he had to go work with them as you
yeah,
usually do when you're acquired.
yeah,
And I have used Google Latitude, that he went off to set up Foursquare. So, Dodgeball
okay,
was the original one, I guess. Um,
yeah.
Foursquare is interesting because they say that they know where you'll be 15 minutes before you do. There's a question from Gary here which says, how can Foursquare be improved to be more of a value proposition for users, not businesses? Because I think everybody sees the everybody's doesn't everybody see the value proposition for businesses? I mean,
I don't think
coupons and
I don't think everyone does, unfortunately. Um, I guess there's competing services though as well for coupons and things like that. But for businesses, you know, I think Foursquare, um, Foursquare, I think I've noticed less reviews, where there is opportunity for tips and reviews, which is useful from friends and things like that. Even if, or not friends, you see tips and reviews from anyone. But if you've got a tip or review from someone you know, then that would carry more weight. But Yelp is definitely more geared towards reviews and user reviews than Foursquare. But I think Foursquare is good for um, I can't remember. Does Yelp actually tell you when someone's nearby? Whereas Foursquare will
Um,
tell you that you're
I'm
checked
not
in
a
the same
user.
place as
I'm
someone
not a
else.
user of Yelp. I think Foursquare is probably bigger in Australia than Yelp, and I use Foursquare tips quite a lot, and I leave
Yes.
tips. Um, and I quite like the tips on Foursquare. I remember I use the Qantas lounge quite a bit because I fly such a lot. I get free access to it. So I found they have licorice all sorts in their lounge, and they put
Nice.
them away. They only have them out for about 2 hours a day, and I found out in each airport which cupboard they're in, and so I've put the information up on Foursquare so that if you're in the lounge and you can't find the licorice all sorts, you know which cupboard they're in. And it's interesting. They've all had about 50 likes each. See, that's useful stuff, I reckon.
Yes.
Do you leave tips, Dave?
I haven't for a while. I have before, but I haven't for a while. Um, just because of the time it takes to type something in. When I'm, out with um, out with the kids or with my wife, you know, the couple of minutes that it takes to, you know, add a tip or a photo or something like that, you know, is a couple of minutes that the kids are getting restless or people are just sitting waiting for you. So, um, I'm rarely on my own somewhere where I take the time to, type out a tip or something like that, unless it was something particularly outstanding or terrible that I wanted to leave a tip about. Um,
Do you?
yeah, and
One of the
that's the
things that
main
we
thing.
do is while one person's paying,
Oh
the
yeah.
other person does the tip. And I often think a lot of social media, and certainly not all of it, is for what I call the moments between. So people won't use a
Mm,
QR code while they're doing something, but they'll use it if it's on the bottle of tomato sauce in the restaurant and they're waiting for someone, or they'll check into a movie when they're waiting in line to get the tickets because there's nothing else to do except check Facebook and do some check-ins. So maybe there's a real strong call to action to identify campaigns that are built around those moments between, because certainly
mm,
you don't want to be trying to use these tools, for instance, while you're driving. I think asking people to check in while they're driving would be idiotic, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
No, definitely.
I think I'm using Chrome and NetVibes seems. Oh no, NetVibes is back again. I was going to say it's crashed. I'm just trying to find out what else has been going on at the moment. And coming to media, any ideas or thoughts on Seven grabbing cut price Olympics?
I hadn't heard anything about that. I haven't been reading the news at all. um, how
It's
did they
probably a
get
good
cut price
thing.
Olympics?
Yeah, they only paid, like a billion gazillion dollars for it. Um, I'm just trying to think what else has been going on this week that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've been on the
Oh,
road since
Facebook's brought out a
Monday.
new filter. Does anybody know anything about that? I just saw
A
the
new
news this
filter.
morning. Yeah, yeah. It's like it's something that allows you to lock it out after between certain hours so that kids can't get up at 3 a.m. and read bullying messages or something. Do you know anything about that? Does
Oh,
anybody out there know
I
anything?
have
If you
not heard
do,
anything
ping
about
us,
that.
let us know. I tell you something. I think that Facebook years ago should have set up something that happens in a lot of other social networks, which is parent-child accounts. And
Oh,
in some of the games I've worked in and social forums and stuff for kids, what you have is the child account is linked to the parent account, and the parent approves the friend's request, has full access to everything, but doesn't have to log out of their own account and log in. And so imagine business pages and groups and then child
Yep.
accounts, and it allows the parent to ghost the children's account. What this would do, and then if you blocked ads and a couple of other things, it would get around that telecommunications for minors ruling we have here in Australia, I think. But it would mean that, Facebook at the moment has a cutoff at 13, which
Yep.
is rubbish because there's something like 4 times the number of 13-year-olds on Facebook in Australia than there are 13-year-olds in Australia, because they've, the 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds have figured out what happens is if you put the date in, you get
Yep.
a message from Facebook telling you the date that you're welcome to join, which is the 13th, your 13th birthday. And I just think if they had this kind of filter over the top, that, I don't know, is it too nanny-ish? And what age do you cut it off? But I definitely don't think kids should have a Facebook account that's unmonitored by their parents. And their parents think because they're friends with the kids that they don't realise the kids can post things up and say, but not this person. So you can actually specify which group you don't want to see your stuff. And I just, Facebook's missing a beat there.
But kids would just create a separate account anyway, wouldn't they, if they really wanted to get around
they do.
their parents seeing their stuff?
I don't know that 9-year-olds would. I mean, I definitely think 13-year-olds would, but 9-year-olds don't know. Facebook filter, here's how it works. A student publishes something rude or insulting on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. It contains a blacklisted word or phrase, or it is posted at a time of day, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., for example. It's deemed risky. The post is then, and I can't read anymore. That's all it says. But then there's a link in the questions section, which I'll just post up now, to a Sydney Morning Herald article in the Digital Life section. So, and I'm sure Facebook themselves, if we go into the Net Vibes Facebook pages, they'd have something up there as well. But yeah, interesting. I don't know.
So that's not something controlled by parents or anything. That's just something that Facebook is implementing.
Yeah, it looks like it, or maybe you can turn it on and off. I mean, we have in our communities, we have a shock site list. In fact, it's a standard list that does the rounds, and it's the sites where people link to them to think. Do you remember Goatsy? If you don't remember Goatsy, I'm not describing it to you. I've seen that site that image so many times. I have nightmares about it. But people link to it because they think they're being funny, and absolutely not funny. And with those sites become auto-ban sites, so if anybody links to them, their account is immediately blocked and banned, and they're notified why, and then they have to write in and say why they linked to that site. And sometimes people get into trouble because they say, whatever you do, don't click on a link like this one, and they put the link up and then they get auto-banned and you have to ban them. People trying to be helpful but promoting the wrong thing. So I have seen more porn than I ever dreamt I would, being a community manager. There's a little fact for you. Yeah. Hey, when do you start work for real in Sydney? You got the week off?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Yeah. Just because school starts on Tuesday, so we get the 5-year-old away to a new school and get that sorted while I'm still around, and then start work on Wednesday. Yeah.
And you're looking forward to it?
Yeah, definitely. Very much so. Be good. Really looking forward to getting started and seeing what we can do to take on the likes of the Courier Mail and the Daily Telegraph.
Go you!
Actually,
bring all that lovely stuff you've been doing at the Courier Mail.
Well,
Guardian.
I think the audience, the Guardian audience, is a bit different from the Courier Mail audience, perhaps. But what's the date today? The 10th. So we've got another couple of days before the Uh, what are we in? July? So another couple of days before the June top news websites, top 10 news websites of June by unique audience, the Nielsen rankings data comes out. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be interesting to see where Guardian and the Courier Mail sit when that comes out. Seeing as last month the Guardian was at number 9 and Courier Mail was at number 10. So yeah, it's good times. Good times.
Inter- interesting times. Interesting times.
Yes.
I wonder how much, I've got a quote from the newspaper works where I placed something up about social media, and they said social media drives very little traffic to news organization sites. And I went, what do you mean? And they went, social media has no impact on our readership. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
And I kept that one because I figured at some stage in the future people might change their mind about whether readers sharing the articles that they're reading drives traffic to news sites.
Yep. Well, I can tell you that traditionally, so in the US, particularly at large places like New York Times or Wall Street Journal or Washington Post, places like that, social media traffic has been significantly higher. Um, Social media referral traffic has been significantly higher than in Australian news organisations. So they've been up as high as 25, 30%, where traditionally, for the last 5 years, most Australian news organisations would probably get, lucky to get 5 to 10% social media referral traffic.
Well, news.com.au, a big conference said something about that it was 18%, but I couldn't figure out if that was worldwide or...
Well, I can tell, and I can probably share this because it was part of the Courier Mail's PANPA. PANPA was the
Yeah.
old newspaper works, so Pacific Area Newspapers Association. So the
Yeah.
PANPA Digital News Website of the Year award, the Courier Mail application would be a public thing. So I'm pretty sure I can say this without breaking any trust or rules. Not a total figure, but between October and March maybe this year, Courier Mail social referral traffic grew by 400%.
Wow.
So
That's
so that is
amazing.
significant. That is significant, and we get a lot of Facebook referral traffic for the Courier Mail now. I say we. I'm not there anymore.
You're not.
But still have a close affinity with the Courier Mail, obviously. So yeah, I would dispute that, and the Courier Mail does better than every other News Limited group for Facebook.
And I saw that BuzzFeed says, I know BuzzFeed's excessive, and then they don't create any original content. It's all curated content, and you can write for BuzzFeed and post stuff to their site, but it's not really original content. But they get 86% of their for every article. It's like shared on average 86% or something like that. They've got an enormous amount of share traffic of, if they put something up on Facebook and it just gets reshared, and on Twitter it gets retweeted so many times. I think that's pretty stunning. Anyway.
Well, that's pretty much been the Courier Mail's strength above pretty much every other. Not just News Limited or News Corp masthead, but other sites as well. There's public data that you can plug into various analytics tools and get engagement rates without having access to insights as an admin for other competitor pages, there's several free analytics tools where you can chuck in, and it will scrape all of the engagements data, so post clicks, likes, comments, shares, tally it all up across multiple competitor pages, and you can see where you stand. And the Courier Mail makes up more than half of the entire engagements of likes, comments, and shares across the entire News Corp Facebook pages, and that's public data. So Courier Mail gets more likes, comments, shares than Daily Tele, News.com, Herald Sun, Advertiser, Perth Now, all of them combined, and that's purely engagement, reach, all that sort of stuff that is feeding into that.
I have a question
more
for you. I think that the Courier Mail is one of the few news organisations that's understood that the shift from bought media, paying for attention, and owned media, which is kind of like, well, we own the newspaper, we can say and do whatever we want, and people will just read it. They're one of the few that have really jumped into that earned media, which is every single person who reads this has to go, I need to reshare this, or I need to pass this on. I often explain to people that social media meaning mediums, is that the person who receives the content has to become the channel, has to become the medium and forward that on. And I think when I read the Courier Mail, in fact, one of the things I show in my classes is I'll show the way that it's written on social media, the hook, and then when you click on it, you read the actual article headline, and it's still written in the old traditional way. And it's an interesting shift in voice from that you won't believe what happens on the third paragraph to giving away the whole story in the headline. You won't believe what she did next, and then it says, woman kills baby or something in the headline. They give the whole thing away. Do you think that we talked a little bit about this last week, but do you think there's some schizo stuff happening with voices where you have to write differently from social than you do for owned media, differently for earned media than you do for owned?
I don't think schizo where you have to completely disassociate yourself, but I think it's like, including for the Courier Mail, a lot of that stuff that you might write, the Courier Mail homepage editors who are posting to social media have a better feel for the hook than anyone else who's posting to social media from news organisations in Australia, at least. So getting that voice right. But the article that they're sharing might not necessarily be even written by Courier Mail. It can be something that was written by News.com, but we're getting them to read it on the Courier Mail website, or written by Daily Telegraph or Herald Sun. It's their story, but we're pointing people to a Courier Mail version of it. So in some respects, I guess there's not as much control over the destination headline on the page, and you are thinking about it in terms of SEO as well, that people are still trying to write headlines and article intros and things like that for SEO search purposes, even though you're getting a mountain more traffic from social than necessarily search on that particular article.
Journalism.org, this is a link from Gary Hayes, said that social visitors spend on average 4 minutes 30 seconds per visit. That's roughly 3 times as long as those who wind up on a news media website through a search engine. So it's not only that social drives more traffic, it's that they stay there longer, and clearly they're more engaged.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I'd have to check out the journalism.org link, and
it's on the Q&A section of the video.
But a lot of social referral traffic is high bounce rate, so
Oh yeah.
they're in for the story, straight back out to Facebook. Um,
And do you think the paywall is the bit of the killer there as well?
oh yeah, I mean definitely. But I think I've mentioned in a previous podcast of ours that um, for the Courier Mail at least, um, getting uh, higher registrations and subscriptions than others because more people are coming from social. So
Mm.
they're wanting more of the stories that they're being pushed to. So they're hitting that paywall sooner. You get two or three free articles. I can't remember now. Um,
3. I know because
three
I
free.
waste mine in the morning and they're all gone by about 8 o'clock.
So you get your couple free if you register just which is not subscribing, paying, just
Mm.
registering. You get another couple free.
Oh,
Um,
do I? Oh, that's good news. Okay, I'll do that.
yeah. So if it asks you to register or subscribe, if you register, that's different from subscribing. Look
Okay.
at me. I'm selling the courier. I'm selling the Courier Mail, and I don't even work there anymore. Um,
Good for you. Can we go on to, because we've got a few minutes left, like 3 minutes left.
yeah,
There's a question about Chromecast versus Apple TV. We've got both. We've got both the Chrome dongle and the Apple TV box.
yeah,
This is the one that allows your iPad and Android, um, whatever's on the screen there, any videos, that sort of thing, YouTube, that you can throw it up on the TV.
yeah,
And I, I've always liked the Apple TV box. I use it in my courses, not all of them, some of them, because it just easy to do things, and in the absence of net vibes, being able to watch iTunes TV series like Orphan Black and stuff like that's awesome.
yeah.
Chromecast, I think, is kind of a cute little dongle. It's, I guess, because I've got the Apple TV, I've not really seen the value in it, except that I'm cross that I paid more than $35 for it. And I think the prices are just dropping dramatically all over the place.
Yeah.
So, do you use either of these two little devices?
I have come close a couple times to getting Apple TV, but never have. And I'm very tempted to get the Chromecast dongle. So
Especially if it's down
if
to $35.
yeah,
That's
if
pretty.
anything, that's likely. But I don't have a TV yet, so I won't be doing that for a little while.
Yeah, don't get a TV. But if you do get a TV,
No,
get a Chromecast because you don't want to be watching free to air unless it's X Factor.
no. Well, that's
Uh,
the thing. We watch very little free to air. Like we watch stuff that was on free to air, but we usually watch it through the catch up, whether that's iView or Plus Seven or whatever, the
mm.
various catch up services. Um, but yeah, we rarely really watch something
But
as it's happening.
okay, iView is shocking. I mean, I use, and I actually pay for a subscription to the BBC player.
iPlayer. Yeah,
100 million times better than iView. iView's a POS compared to that. And specifically the fact that I can download the whole of, I don't know, some murder mystery British BBC series that I like
yeah.
and watch it on the plane because I don't need an internet connection. iView, it doesn't even work when I have got an internet connection. It's just a shocker, absolute shocker. So, and then Yahoo
Uh,
7 catch up. How many ads are on that one? Like,
oh yeah,
I tried to watch Blacklist and then in the end went no and just went and paid 99 cents or whatever it was, or a dollar, $2, and downloaded the episode on iTunes because I
yeah.
couldn't stand the ads. Just couldn't stand them.
Um,
Anyway, all right,
I'm
so I don't know
in
if
their
there's any other
defense.
big news this week.
In
What do
their
you think?
defense, I've never had any problems with iView.
Yeah,
Just
my
putting.
big thing is being able to buffer. It just doesn't buffer, and I'm in the Blue Mountains,
Oh
so
yeah,
Not,
Yeah.
I basically don't use it anymore. And if I have it an option of watching it on iView or the BBC one, I'll use the BBC one because I can download it, buffer it, watch it on a plane. It just it has. I don't know. There's just weird stuff. Like, why doesn't iView have the TV guide integrated with it? There's just strange things. Anyway,
Yeah. Anyway, they did have a ABC companion app. Did you see that?
yes,
It was a beta app, and I used it for a little bit, but
and you
it was
got
a
to
little
play
bit
along
too.
with TV shows and stuff.
Yeah, and it also had the guide and things like that. I mean, it wasn't. It was just a little bit too cumbersome, I think, when you just want the shows, really. Um,
Yeah. I
and
think
they,
it had potential and it was in beta and it didn't go
yeah,
anywhere. Caveat here is Gary Hayes, my partner, worked on that. In fact, he was the person
okay.
who led it, designed it, whatever, led the team.
Sorry,
Um,
Gary.
but what I would say is where the ABC has a challenge is that they can't sign up with Fango or any of those guys because too much advertising, way too much advertising. I
Yep.
don't think Australia will accept that amount of advertising around ABC properties. I just don't think.
Yeah.
Christopher says, alternatively, you could look up the same article on different News Corp websites.
Is
And
that Christopher Lawson?
yes, it is. Who's
Bad,
Christopher Lawson
bad.
from SBS?
Christopher.
Okay.
Well, no,
Very
Christopher used to. Christopher used to work for me, with me at Quest newspapers when I was editor there, and I hired him
naughty.
as my deputy digital editor. So he knows the tricks around the paywall. They're not really tricks; they're very easy.
And to be honest, how much stuff is nicked from Reddit anyway? Don't answer that, Dave. You don't have to answer that. But like I can always go off and find original sources somewhere. iView was better before the audience tested redesign, Christopher says. I don't know. I haven't looked at iView for ages because it just annoyed me so much when I was using it.
Hmm.
Although I don't like Beamly or Fango or Zbox or whatever they're called these days any better. So I'm just a bit grump this morning. I don't like anything.
Fair enough.
I do like BBC Player. I think that's awesome, and that's probably my choice. But then again, I like cozy murder mysteries, so I'm not going to be watching sports or anything like that on it.
Bit of Midsummer Murders for you.
I love Midsummer Murders, and love Poirot and Agatha Christie, and I don't mind some of the more gruesome stuff, the CSIs and Criminal
I've never
Minds.
liked the American ones. Whitechapel and Luther. They're good.
They're pretty
I'm watching
gruesome.
that. Yeah, I know.
They're available on the BBC Player, and I
Yeah,
downloaded Whitechapel. I think that's the modern day Jack the Ripper. They're
yeah,
scary.
yeah, yeah. They're good.
I watch it in bed with my iPad under the covers, and it's not a good thing. It's
No,
terrifying.
watch it with the lights on.
Yeah, I have to tweet out, Twitter, hold me, I'm scared. you know. All right, so thanks, Christopher, for those comments. I think next week, because you're back on board next week, aren't you? You're taking the kids to school on Tuesday, back at work on Wednesday. Can you still join us on Thursday, Dave? Do you think?
I don't know because I don't know what my work hours are yet.
Okay,
Whether I'm
that's always a
working
good
whether I'm
thing.
working regular hours or not.
All
Sorry?
right. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully you can, because I would be devastated if your new overlords at the Guardian say you can't join us. I'd be traumatized, and I'd have to find other
Uh,
people. Oh well, never mind. If you want to join me next week, no.
And
That's
she's
me.
over it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. On to the next one. Next. Um, Next week, I want to do more structured. This today was a bit of a faffy one because we were both busy and we just pulled up the Net Vibes thing and went through a couple of things. Next week, more structure. I'll actually have the separate areas bookmarked, which I thought I had for the calendar, but I couldn't find them. But we're going to do the 5 different things you need to measure in social media and a couple
Whoa.
of tools to demonstrate them. Some of them are the same as traditional media. So, in traditional media, you measure subscribers, eyeballs, and in social media, you might measure followers or likes or whatever. And then some of them are very specific to social media. So, sentiment measuring tools, velocity, because you have a velocity issue with social media that you don't have with traditional media. Traditional media, the number of people that are in the room, because social
Yeah.
relies on people in the room passing it to the people outside of the room. That's a velocity issue. So I'm thinking we can go through the 5 main KPIs of social media that you want to measure and then demonstrate some tools that do that. What do you think, Dave? Do you think that would be a fun thing to do, or would that be boring?
No, that sounds great. That sounds very fun for someone like
Very
me.
fun. And then you can just jump in and tell me that I'm wrong where I'm wrong.
No worries.
That sounds like a deal. All right, so next Thursday, 10 o'clock Sydney time, Google Hangouts. I've got to find a way of having a permanent, sustainable link. I think what I'm going to do is create something on my blog and then just update that with the new link each time, because this having to recreate an audience each week is killing
Yeah.
me. You forget to tweet it, and that's it. We were up to 70, 80 viewers one week, and then whoops, forgot.
Yeah.
Darn this earned media! You just have to keep earning it. um,
All right.
so yeah, next week.
Plug
Okay,
away.
good.
Excellent.
Dave, thanks so much for taking the time while you're busy moving and getting settled into your new place in Sydney. Best of luck with your new job next week, and hopefully we'll
Thank you.
see you on Thursday.
Yep.
All right.
I'm glad.
See you.
I'm glad this worked for 3G. So thanks everyone, and see you next
And
time.
bye to everybody out there. Thank you. See you next week, hopefully. Thanks again for joining us.
See ya.